Imagine 10 tons of flour dropping through the air like a snowstorm inside a steel room. That's what 2 a.m. looks like inside one of the largest cake factories on Earth. Right now, a factory somewhere is building 50,000 cakes before the sun comes up. And here's what's going to stay with you long after this video ends. There's one step in this entire process, the most critical layer of every cake that no human hand has ever touched, not once. Let's start at the very beginning. Raw materials. Everything starts on a loading dock in the dark. Trucks back in carrying 1-ton bulk bags of wheat flour. Each bag hangs from an overhead crane like a white boulder. A worker guides it into position over a receiving hopper. The bag opens from the bottom and flour pours down in a thick column. That single bag holds enough flour for roughly 3,000 cakes. Wrap your head around that. Next door, a refrigerated tanker pumps liquid egg into chilled storage tanks. Not whole eggs cracked by hand. Pre-pasteurized liquid egg delivered by the ton. Sugar arrives in sealed silos connected directly to the mixing room through pneumatic pipes. Butter and vegetable oil sit in heated holding tanks so they stay fluid and ready to pump. Think of this factory like a body. Every ingredient has its own artery feeding directly into the heart, the mixing room. Batter mixing. The mixing room is where raw ingredients become batter cake, and it looks nothing like your kitchen. These mixers hold over 500 liters each. A computerized dosing system measures flour, sugar, egg, and fat to the gram. No one scoops anything with a cup. Sensors verify every single dose before it enters the bowl. The mixer spins at precisely calibrated speeds, slow for combining, fast for aeration. Here's what most people never think about. The air whipped into the batter during this stage determines the cake's final texture. Too little air and you get a brick. Too much and it collapses in the oven. The system targets an exact batter density, measured in grams per liter. A worker pulls a sample cup, weighs it on a precision scale, and confirms. If it's off by even 2%, the entire batch gets adjusted before it moves forward. That's roughly 800 cakes riding on 1 cup of batter on a scale. No pressure. Once approved, the batter flows through heated pipes to the depositing line. It never sits in a bucket. It never touches open air longer than it has to. Batter depositing. Now, the batter needs to get into molds, fast and perfectly. A depositing machine sits over a conveyor carrying hundreds of greased metal molds. Each mold passes under a bank of nozzles. The nozzles open for a precise fraction of a second and a measured dose drops in. Every single mold gets exactly the same fill. We're talking accuracy within a few grams across thousands of cakes per hour. If you blink, you miss 20 molds getting filled. A worker monitors a screen showing fill weights in real time. One irregular fill and the system flags it instantly. Could you imagine hand pouring batter into 50,000 molds before sunrise? Neither can they. That's why the machine does it. The baking tunnel. Here's where it gets intense. The filled molds roll into a tunnel oven that stretches over 200 feet long. That's longer than half a football field. Inside, different zones hold different temperatures. The first zone is gentler. It lets the batter rise without shocking it. The middle zone cranks heat to set the internal structure. The final zone dries the surface and locks in that golden color. The whole journey through the oven takes between 18 and 25 minutes. And here's the stat that'll stop you. At any given moment, there are thousands of cakes inside this single tunnel, all baking simultaneously. When they come out the other end, they're perfect golden sponge layers. Every single one the exact same height, the exact same color. Your oven at home does 1 cake at a time. This machine just baked 3,000 in an hour. Cooling. You can't frost a hot cake. The topping would melt on contact and slide right off. So the sponge layers enter a cooling spiral, a tall vertical conveyor that loops upward like a parking garage ramp. Chilled air blows across every layer as it rises. By the time a cake reaches the top and comes back down, it's at room temperature. This takes about 45 minutes, but keeps the whole line moving non-stop. The cakes never stop. The conveyor never pauses. It's like a slow, cold Ferris wheel made of cake. Layer slicing. Now the cooled sponge needs to become layers. A horizontal cutting machine uses ultra-thin wires stretched tight like guitar strings. The sponge block moves through on a belt. The wires slice it into 2 or 3 perfectly even layers in one pass. Each layer matches in thickness, usually within half a millimeter. Your sharpest kitchen knife could never do this. Not once. Definitely not 50,000 times. These sliced layers continue down the line toward the step that makes this entire factory remarkable. The cream injection. This is it, the step the title promised you. The cream layer, the part you taste first in every single bite, is never touched by a human hand. Not during mixing, not during depositing, not during leveling, not once in the entire process from raw ingredient to finished cake. Here's exactly how it works. The cream filling is mixed inside a sealed, refrigerated blending unit. Ingredients are dosed automatically: fat, sugar, stabilizers, flavorings. Every component is pumped in by weight with no human measuring. The temperature is held within 1 degree of the target at all times. Too warm and the cream won't hold its shape on the sponge. Too cold and it won't flow through the depositing nozzles. That 1 degree window is the difference between a perfect cake and waste. The blended cream travels through chilled pipes directly to precision depositing heads. And these nozzles don't just squirt cream onto the cake, they inject it in a calculated pattern, a grid of tiny individual streams. Those streams merge into one seamless, even layer with 0 gaps. The deposit volume is measured to the 1/10 of a gram. Every cake gets exactly the same amount, not roughly the same, exactly the same. Immediately after deposit, an automated leveling system passes over the surface. Some factories use an air knife, a thin blade of pressurized air that smooths without contact. Others use a precision scraper floating just microns above the cream. Either way, the cream layer becomes perfectly flat in under 2 seconds. You couldn't do that with a spatula if someone gave you 10 minutes. Then the second sponge layer drops on top. A vacuum suction arm lifts it, positions it, and places it down, aligned within a millimeter. No fingers, no hands, no human contact at any point. Within seconds, the assembled cake enters a flash freeze chamber. The temperature inside hits -30 degrees Celsius. That's colder than the surface of Mars on a warm day. The cream sets rock solid in minutes. This isn't just about food safety, although that absolutely matters. It's about structural integrity. A frozen cream layer won't shift during frosting. It won't ooze. It won't collapse when the cake gets stacked, boxed, and shipped across the country. From sealed blending unit to frozen solid, the cream goes through 7 automated stages and 0 human hands. That's not a shortcut. That's precision engineering applied to something you eat with a fork. Frosting and decoration. Now the frozen cake needs its outer coat. An enrobing machine pours a waterfall of chocolate, icing, or glaze over the top. The cake passes through the curtain on a wire belt. Excess coating drips through the gaps and gets pumped right back into the system. Nothing wasted. Decoration happens next, and it's absurdly fast. Automated piping heads apply swirls, rosettes, or lines at full conveyor speed. Some lines use stencils and edible powder for printed patterns. A cake gets fully decorated in less than 3 seconds. Every single one looks identical to the last. Your birthday cake took someone 20 minutes to decorate by hand. This machine does 600 in that same time. Let that sit for a second. Final freezing. The decorated cakes enter a final blast freezer tunnel. This locks every layer, every swirl, every molecule of frosting in place. The cakes spend up to 90 minutes inside at -35. When they come out, they're rigid as bricks. That's the point. That rigidity lets them survive packaging, stacking, and cross-country shipping without a single smudge. Quality control. Before any cake gets boxed, it faces the robots. High-speed cameras photograph every cake from above and from the side. Software checks diameter, height, coating coverage, and decoration placement. If a cake is 2 millimeters too short, rejected. Frosting uneven on one side, rejected. The machines are ruthless. A worker pulls random samples every 15 minutes. They slice the cake open to check internal structure, cream layer thickness, sponge color, air bubble distribution. They even taste it. That's right, someone's actual job is to eat cake at 4 in the morning. There are worse ways to make a living. Packaging and sealing. Cakes that pass every check move straight to packaging. Each cake slides into a fitted plastic tray. A flow wrap machine pulls printed film around it, heat seals both ends, and cuts it free. The whole wrapping takes under 2 seconds per cake. A laser prints the date code and batch number onto every single package. If there's ever a quality issue, they can trace any cake back to the exact batch, shift, and mixer load. Workers stack the sealed cakes into cardboard shipping cases, usually 10 or 12 per box. Every movement is fast. Every movement has a reason. Palletizing and dispatch. Cases travel by conveyor to a robotic palletizer. It stacks boxes in a pattern engineered to maximize every inch of truck space. Shrink wrap seals the whole pallet tight as a drum. Forklifts move them into cold storage or straight onto refrigerated trucks. From flour hitting the mixer to a sealed cake on a truck, roughly 4 hours. That's it. Scale and numbers. Let's put the scale in perspective. A single production line can push over 2,000 finished cakes per hour. Most large factories run 4 to 6 lines at once. That's up to 12,000 cakes per hour under one roof. This factory runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Over 50,000 cakes built and shipped before most people's alarm clocks go off. In 1 year, a facility like this produces tens of millions of cakes, every one of them built layer by layer by machines that never blink. Outro. Next time you pull a cake out of a grocery store freezer, you're holding something engineered with the same precision as an assembly line building engines. Here's my question. Does knowing the cream layer was never once touched by a human hand make it more impressive or slightly unsettling? Tell me in the comments. If you made it this far, you belong here. Subscribe to Process All.